First speaker this afternoon is James Walsh. James is married to Sinead, and James, I suppose, is maybe fortunate in one sense in that he grew up on a farm, but he went and got educated in University College Cork, where he got a degree in commerce. After that, he travelled to New Zealand for a year working, and when he came back then, he did a master's as well in UCC. So he settled back in farming, and he's had a period of probably rapid expansion over the past number of years. So we're here today to listen to James's story and learn from it.
Good afternoon, folks. As Robert said, James Walsh is my name, from Carrick-on-Shore in County Tipperary. We're farming 140 hectares in total. The milking platform is 74 hectares, or 185 acres. Last year we milked 275 cows. I'm married to Sinead. We have 3 kids. My mum and dad, Pat and Siobhan, live on the home farm as well. And as Robert said, I came home to the farm in 2000 after 5 years in UCC and a year in New Zealand. In 2009, we were very lucky to be selected to be one of the commercial farms for the Greenfield Dairy project. So since 2007, we have expanded from 80 cows and a beef enterprise to almost 280 cows last year. We have borrowed 510,000 in 2010 to fund the development of the old beef part of the farm, to build a new 35-unit milking parlour, build a pad for about 300 cows and a lined lagoon. So I suppose the question I'm often asked is why did we take on such a relatively big step? And for me it's quite simple. I wanted to provide a more sustainable farm for myself and the family. Breaking that down a bit, I wanted something that was easier to manage, a better income and a better lifestyle. So far, we're ticking the first 2 boxes. Better lifestyle, we're not quite there yet, but we'll get there. A summary of the development. 2007, we had 80 cows, a beef enterprise that included 50 sucklers, and all the calves were reared to beef. 2008, we increased to 120 cows with our own stock. We started phasing out the beef and started the development planning. This consisted mainly of going around talking to guys who had already expanded, looking at parlours and farmyards and that. 2009 was a busy year. We were at 130 cows. We designed the new farmyard layout, the new farm infrastructure. We dealt with all the planning permission stuff. Gathered prices from contractors and milking machine suppliers. We started the development work in September 2009, and we purchased 70 in calf heifers in September 2009. So 2010 was an equally hectic year. We were up to 210 cows that year, which was a big jump for us. The milking parlour was built and the development was finally finished. We had a couple of staff on the farm, which brought issues with itself, and the second half of 2010 was trying to get back to some normality about the farm. 2011 was much easier year, even though we increased cows to 230. But it was a year where we were bedding in the system and learning the new way of doing things. 2012 then, last year, was an easier year again. We grew to 275 with our own heifers again. But the main focus was improving efficiency of how we were doing things, improving our heifer rearing and improving our financial skills. So today this is the overall layout of the farm. As you can see on this map of the farm, in the main picture is the existing milking platform. To the right, as you're looking at it, we own a 55-acre farm about 11 miles away. To the left of the map here, about a mile up the road, we have a 32-acre farm rented. Another mile further up the road, we have a 70-acre farm leased. Okay, you can see where the farmyard is marked on the right-hand side there. and that red line, that heavy red line, that's the public road. Okay. We hope to put in an underpass this year, just to see where it's marked with the red circle. The north section, or the top section of the farm, that's where the old beef block was. The bottom section, that's where the old dairy section was up until 2010. In particular, just going on to the soil fertility, the northern section of the farm, P levels were particularly low up there. The dairy section wasn't too bad. So we see here our soil fertility results for 2010. About 57% of the farm was below par for P levels, not so bad for K levels. The average for the farm was 5.5 pH, which is a good bit below what we wanted at 6.3 or 6.5. So there's been a big emphasis put on correcting the pH and correcting the P levels in the last 3 years. We're still waiting for our 2013 results to see how well we've done so far. Very briefly then, this is just a sketch of the farmyard. The public road is that line at the very top underneath where it says stock path. That's the old farmyard where it says tanker entrance. Then all this bottom section here is the new farmyard. So you have the new milking parlour, the outwintering pad with a feed passage down the centre, and a lined lagoon. Okay. So that was the main development that we did in the 2009-2010. Briefly, just to go through where we are production-wise. 2010, we milled 210 cows, stocking rate of 2.84. 2011, we were at 230 cows, stocking rate 3.12. And last year, we averaged 272 cows, stocking rate of 3.68. Grass production-wise, on the milking block, we grew 14 tonnes of dry matter a hectare last year. We used about 13.7 tonnes of that, most of it grazed. There was some bales taken out as surplus as well, about 450 or 500 bales, and we fed 254 kilos of mainly straight, so it was soya hulls and citrus last year. See on this graph here, so the farm grew quite a bit of grass last year despite the bad weather. Our peak demand for the 270 odd cows was 60 kilos of dry matter a day, and we just show that with the red line. So from early May to the end of September, most of the time we were growing enough grass to feed the cows fully on grass. What that resulted in, this is our milk solid production profile for the last 3 years. The purple bar is 2012, so you'll see we've jumped quite a bit. Most of it coming in the first half of the season. That's been driven by a better calving spread and a higher stocking rate of 3.68. On this next slide here, we just saw that in 2010 we sold about 690 kilos of solids per hectare, going up there last year to 1,270 or so kilos per hectare. An important point just to make here is that fertility isn't suffering, and we're still luckily coming up with the goods there. Our start of calving last year was probably a little bit late at the 9th of February, and we had 80% calved in 6 weeks. We brought the calving date forward to about 3rd of February for this year. Breeding wise then, we had 89% submission the first 3 weeks of breeding for the cows, and when we scanned there we have 6% not in calf rate after 12 weeks. The herd EBI is 131. So this good fertility is really what's helping us build our cow numbers from the 210 to the 270 odd in the last couple of years. So hopefully that gives you a picture of where we are now on the farm. So now to the serious stuff. We got some things right along the way since 2009, and we got a few things pretty badly wrong too. So look, I'll go through the nice good list first because it's the one I prefer. Okay. First thing is, pretty simply, I'm really glad we've done what we've done. Massive change in the farm, in the working environment. Second thing is, our second part of that is, we're well invested for the future, and we're well set up, and we can really focus now on growing the business and focusing on the important stuff like the cows and the grass. The farm is definitely easier to run than when we had the cattle and the sucklers and all the rest. It's much nicer to go to work there, and the profit figure is definitely much better. The next thing is, if having a mentor for us, or having mentors for us, made a huge difference. We were very lucky to have Adrian van Buisterveld for the couple of years of the planning and the main development stages. Look, not everyone is going to be that lucky, but in the absence of someone like Adrian, we all know a couple of good farmers who are a bit long in the tooth, who have a lot of experience, and I'm sure they'll be happy to be the sounding board, and to keep you on your toes, because I know for me that was a big one. Discipline isn't one of my strong points. A mentor will keep you disciplined. Planning the expansion is critical. Again, a good mentor is fairly important there to make you sit down, do the simple stuff like a SWOT analysis. What are you good at? What are the advantages your farm has? That kind of thing. What are your goals? What's your family's goals? That kind of stuff. We kind of all know them. We kind of all want loads of cows, but actually writing them down makes a big difference, because then you have to be serious about it. Mapping out the options of how to get there. What are the possible outcomes of that? These are all things we did in 2009 before we did anything, before we bought any stock or dug any ground. It definitely reduced the stress along the way, and it certainly has reduced the risk involved. Mindset is a tricky one to explain. The entire process from 2009, let's say, to now and ongoing, huge demand on your time and on your energy and your mental space, and it's, I don't know, for me anyway, I get very disheartened if things don't happen quick enough, or if things don't go right, so it's really important to have a positive mindset and keep yourself with that can-do attitude to just bulldoze through those tough times. It's easy to let that bit slip, but that's what's going to keep you going. Willingness to change. We found a huge need to change our management style as cows numbers increased. For me, I love spreading fertilizer. I love going off on the tractor, radio on, no one to bother me. I haven't spread fertilizer for, I'd say, 4 years now. I just hadn't time. I wasn't getting it done. We weren't growing the grass. So that was a biggie. I know another one on our farm is selling the bull calves. Jesus, that's a big one. At 280 or 90 calves hitting the ground, and you're stocked heavily, you can't afford to be just keeping a few bull calves. That's, these things, small changes. As I mentioned earlier, the demand on your time and your energy is massive when you're planning an expansion and supervising it on that. I've often heard said that you should hire a project manager. In my case, I wasn't happy to be a hands-off person. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be standing in the trench. I wanted to be seeing exactly what was going on. So for some people, hiring a project manager will keep the thing on track while you look after the farm. What we decided to do was we hired a couple of extra lads, which released me to go off talking to fellas and driving around and standing in that trench. You need to do one or the other. In our case, again, because we had temporary staff, procedures in place. You know, it sounds a bit official to have protocols and manuals and all the rest. Simple thing we did, we wrote down how we reared the calves from when they hit the ground till when they're reared. What do you do when a cow gets mastitis? You know, we have just a simple list, this, and if that doesn't work, do that. It helps keep the day-to-day stuff running kind of smoothly anyway. Contingency plan. Something will go wrong along the way. I can vouch for that. And if you get away with one thing going wrong, you're very lucky. What we did, we took 10% straight away of what we thought it was going to cost. And I certainly burned through that 10% and a bit with it. But at least 10%. Take it out of your budget, put it aside, that's your contingency plan. In our case, bad weather, delays was our biggie. Prioritizing your spending. We really felt that good roads and paddocks were what was going to give us the best return, and having good stock on hand and enough stock. So we prioritised those two spends in 2009. We had to put in slurry storage and we had to build winter accommodation. We did the bare minimum on that because they're giving us the least return. The cow paddocks are in use 10 months of the year, the wintering facilities 2 or 4 months. Price inflation is one that we don't have control over. We were fortunate in 2009 that milk price was bad, demand for stock was low, builders were standing around with their hands hanging, so we got good prices from builders. But look, when there is a crowd all moving the same direction, prices may get inflated. So, you know, same as everything, you have to stay motivated to get the best price and spend as little as you can. Loan structure, by that what I mean is cash flow is very tight the first couple of years. It's just a fact of life. Don't promise the bank that you will pay back capital repayments straight away, because as in our case, we haven't been able to. We only started this year paying back capital repayments, and only at the end of the season. We agreed 2.5 years interest only period. It just it gave us a break, a breathing space, and at least we did what we told the bank we would do. Now the list that everyone loves to hear. What did you do wrong? So I've limited it down to 6. For some reason, I didn't think it was going to rain in 2009. It did. September 2009, I bought heifers. The week after that, 3 track machines and 3 dump trailers moved into the farm. Worked away for 3 weeks, everything great. Then it started to rain on the 7th of October, continued to rain till the 15th of December. Then we got 3 fine days where we built the pad, and then it froze for 3 weeks, and then it snowed for a couple of weeks. So you can see, we had a picture of a digger covered in snow there, but sure, take my word for it. So yeah, the problem with that was the added cost, the time delays. I had extra stock, nowhere to put them, no roadways to put them on paddocks the following spring. We had an 80-acre block designed for 80 cows and 220 cows calving down. Okay, the stress, unbelievable. The cost of getting diggers to work in the rain added on. We reckon it cost us about 60,000 because we had to plough on in the wet. 60,000 was our contingency gone and a bit more. Work organisation, because we were so well organised, every part of the project had to be done before the next part could start. I have a picture here, you can't see it, but it's a track machine sitting up on a pile of rock. The rock that came up from the lagoon, meant for the farm roadways that we couldn't put out because the ground was too wet, on the site of where the milking parlour was supposed to be built. So we couldn't do anything other than look at this digger sitting up on the pile of rock for I don't know how many weeks. Pressure was serious. So, you know, if you can do a bit, do your roads, do them without anything else having to be done. That kind of thing. Monitoring expansion costs. we've all heard it ad nauseum. I can't stress it enough. The need to monitor all the costs very, very closely. The faster the pace of the work, the more often it has to be done. So in our case, we got through an awful lot of work in a few months. We should have been doing formal monitoring every week. And I mean every Thursday we should have been sitting down and going through where we were. We did monitor, but it was very agricultural, back of the fag box kind of stuff. And I thought I was doing a great thing. It caught up with us in August 2010 when a couple of invoices came in, much bigger than we expected. And then there was another couple of invoices came in that I'd completely forgotten about. Suddenly, that contingency that was 10% needed to be 20%. And all that had to be paid for out of cash flow. So if it's just one thing, I've often said that if I was doing it again, guys that are on an hourly rate or a day rate, we would do timesheets on a Thursday so we know by Friday lunchtime where we stand. Guys, the jobs allocated on price need to be fully spec'd before any work is done. A friend of mine is a builder, and he often says, the tender price gets the job, but the extras make the job. The farm operational budget, again, we weren't conservative enough. We knew things would be tough. We knew performance wouldn't be great. But the long and the short of it is, your eye will be off the ball. Whether you have a project manager or extra help, your eye will be taken off the ball. The big thing is that the problems in year one are generally big problems, and they're costly problems to fix. Okay. In our case, we had to try and cover the overruns on a production of 287 kilos of milk solids per cow. Okay, so very, very difficult. Extra jobs and add-ons, doing work outside the budget is a killer on the cash flow. We were delighted in 2010. We had make the place look nice and pretty. We'd caught up on deferred maintenance that had been sitting there for 10 years or maybe longer. And again, August 2010, where was the money coming to pay for all this? So look, again, if I was back again, I'd set out my list of expenditures, and we've heard this before. The must-have column, which is often the smallest one, the like-to-have stuff, and the nice-to-have stuff. So we've all heard it, but it's a simple tool that's very, very effective. We didn't do that. One that's increasingly important now is having all the finance fully in place before we start. We didn't do that either. We kind of had it agreed, but then the bank solicitors wanted this, that and the other. Our solicitor wanted this, that and the other. We had 3/4 of the spend done before we got a penny, and entirely our own fault. So the requirements of the bank are extremely strict now, and the process is very slow because their solicitor writes to your solicitor and so on and so forth. Extremely stressful. In our case, middle of calving, contractors on site having not been paid for maybe 3 or 4 months, and they trying to pay their suppliers. It's a horrible place to be. So they're the main areas that we fell down. And don't be under any illusion, if I was here for another hour or 2 hours, I could tell you more, but we'll go to 6. There's a few handy little lessons that we did pick up along the way. First one is things just take longer than you think. They just do. If we all add, well, I don't know about you, but if I added a third to how long I think it takes to get to Limerick, I might be here on time the next time. But that goes for everything. Looks don't equal profit. Making the yard look pretty doesn't put more milk in the tank, but it increases the costs and it definitely hurts the cash flow because you're taking it out of the tank. Okay. Continuous learning and improvement. There's kind of 2 bits to that. For me, the continuous improvement helped me stay sane when things were kind of tough. How was I going to shave 10 minutes off milking time by doing it better? or doing it differently. That for me kept me sane, but also improved the efficiency. You know, then you have the big stuff, upskilling, you know, continuously learning, trying to do cash flows properly, that you can use them, not just because your Chagas advisor told you to do it. You know, the really important stuff. Family help is a one that a lot of us ignore. In my case, it's dad. You know, the amount of work that, you know, family members do, and people say, God, you're doing great work there, but it's not. Very often it's your dad or mammy is feeding the calves, or your wife, or whoever it is. That is pretty important. Another tough one to maybe get to grips with is the family support and understanding. There's serious financial pressure. Well, we had serious financial pressure, serious time demands and work demands. You know, and if you don't explain that to your husband or your wife or your whoever it is before you start, you're going to be in a constant row, I reckon. And be realistic about the payoffs. Promising the sun, moon and stars when it's finished, you're not going to have the sun, moon and stars. You know, the only one thing I am kind of picking up along the way is celebrating the little victories. You know, when you get that really big milk check in May on a good year, you know, I don't celebrate it, okay? This is another one. It's more of a personal one, I suppose. Is, you know, knowing your business, knowing your own business, and knowing what you're trying to do. You know, knowing what you're trying to achieve. We all have to listen to advice. And we all need to listen to advice. We all need to gather up whatever information we can. But the reality is, and we all really know it deep down, is that you have to make your own decision and you have to stick by it. So if you make a decision, you can't turn around and blame someone else because it's your decision. So, you know, you have to really know your business. A really big lesson learned, and absolutely it's the hardest one to drag yourself up out of the farmyard and actually do it, is the cash flow and financial management. So what we do now, you know, we used to do it, absolutely, but we do now is, let's say the first week in January, we do our profit monitor for the last year. In our case, we compared against the other guys in our discussion group. The week after then, we do our monthly cash flows for the year. Now, we generally do that basing on our previous year using the accounts package. You know, then each month, get the invoices in, get the receipts in, you know, in the month or within a couple of days of the end of the month. Then every 3 months, sit down with whoever, be it your wife, your accountant, your Chagas person, whoever it is, your mentor preferably if you have one, and do a financial review. Are you on budget, out of budget, what's wrong, what are you going to do to correct it? December, sit down with maybe all those people mentioned and do a review. Say, right, how well am I really doing? And that profit monitor is slightly different. I mean an actual, honest to goodness, drawings, the whole lot thrown in there. The last one in this, but I suppose, is surprises. Year one is full of big and very often expensive surprises. The good news I can give you is that there's only one big surprise in year two and year three, and that's how much easier it was than year one. Okay. So look, just quick summary, guys. You know, just in your head or in your hardback where you're saying your expansion hardback book. Okay, phase one, your planning stage. Okay, that's where you're, you know, what you need to do, who you're talking to, and all the rest. Then phase two is the really exciting part. You know, where you have diggers in and you have milking machine guys in and you're doing all this work and you're fencing and you see the changes. That's great crack. But it doesn't last forever. Phase three then is reality bites phase. Settling in, you know, you have to pay the bills. You have to improve farm performance. You have to improve your own performance. In my case, the heifer rearing was a biggie, and financial management is a biggie. We've done that for the last year. We're still at it, and I'll probably be improving at that till I retire. So look, we've a long way to go. There's plenty of room for improvement. I'm not up here pretending to be anything special. I'm just giving you the mistakes or the lessons I've learned in the last few years. It's not for everyone, but hopefully you'll get something out of what we've done. So finally, the most enduring lesson I suppose I've learned in the last few years is best illustrated in the little verse I've borrowed from Con Hurley. And it goes like this: as you go through life, my friend, whatever be your goal, keep your eye on the donut and not on the hole.